What's up, guys? Today what I wanted to do is go through rating 101 with you guys. I wanted to start off from someone who literally just dinged 90, has never rated before. This video is for you, okay? I'm not going to teach you how to play. I'm going to teach you some tips and tricks about how to get into a raid and be successful and get invited back to a raid, okay? The first thing that you want to do is once you hit 90 is go online and research your class, okay? That's the first thing that you want to do, is your class is the most important thing. You need to go to MMO.com, MMOchampion.com forums. You need to go to Icy Veins. Those are the two I would definitely recommend. Icy Veins is a little bit more easy to comprehend for beginners. It goes through and explains everything. MMO Champion forums are a little bit more elitist, so understand that going in, that if you're not really comfortable with your class, do go there first. That's really the most important thing. They will teach you how to gem, how to enchant, what gear you're looking for, what spells you want to get, everything. They will show you everything. And then what you need to do is you need to sit in front of a training dummy and learn your rotation. You need to learn your cooldowns, when to pop those in a fight, what your optimal opener is, if there's any useful macros for your class. This is where you need to learn all of that information. It has it all on there for you. You need to do this. This is extremely, extremely important. Your class has to be the first thing that you know. The reason I say that is because you casting your spells literally needs to be second nature. It cannot be anything else. What am I meaning by that is, if I'm doing a boss, like Garajal, for instance, is a perfect example. You don't really need to move a whole lot. You pretty much just stand on the butt of the boss and you burn your rotation. What I would recommend is, fights like this are perfect for if you know your rotation and you're going to try to push out as much DPS as you can, etc., etc. But for the majority of raids, guys, and the majority of fights, is there's movement involved, there's stacking, there's spreading, there's killing adds, there's doing different things. You need to know what your spells do, you need to know your rotation, and you need to be good at it to where it's second nature. The first thing I do when I hit 90 is I go through and I read every single ability after I've set up my rotation, after I've done my research from my websites. I then go through and I read every ability. What does this do? What does this do? And I read every single one of them. Why? Because I want to understand every ability that I have in my arsenal, so that way if there's something that anyone throws at me, I understand what spells do and how they work. Okay? That's the most important thing, is you need to know every single spell that you have and how it works, and then you need to get extremely comfortable with your rotation. Okay? That's number one. Number two, if you're just starting out raiding, learn to keybind. I cannot tell you enough, you cannot be a clicker and be a successful raider at a level where you're going to enjoy yourself. Being this, and this is what I mean by clickers, guys who they click their target, and then they click their dot, and then they click their spells, and they're spamming their spells like this. This is not the way to do things. Oh, I gotta cast my cooldowns. Oh, cooldowns are up. Okay, this one clicked. You know what I mean? Oh, I gotta refresh my dot. Oh, I gotta put down my rune. Look at how much time we're wasting DPSing right there. That's just a ton of time that you need to not be wasting. You need to learn how to keybind. Okay? If I take that same rotation and I got my runes down, got my target clicked, I put my dots on, I'm still spamming my button, but now my eyes are on the screen, okay? My eyes are not down on my abilities. My eyes are not looking for where I have to put my mouse next to cast my next spell. My eyes are on the screen, okay? I'm looking at my guy, I'm looking at cooldowns, I'm looking at where the boss is, I'm looking at are there any adds. I'm looking at all these different things, okay? This is the small things that I am doing. But what you need to do is you need to be comfortable with your keybinds to the point where, and it will take this, I promise you, go spend an hour to an hour and a half in front of a training dummy. You will learn how to do it. It's going to be really crappy at first, especially if you're used to clicking your spells. When you get your keybinds set up, and setting up your keybinds, guys, there's a lot of different ways that people do it. I would recommend, honestly, there's a lot of videos out there that will teach you how to keybind. I don't want to teach you how to do that. I'm just giving you the raiding 101 tips and tricks, okay? This is how to get into a raid, how to be a successful raider if you're just starting out and you're just getting into raiding. Okay, the next thing that you need to do is, alright, step 1 was learn your class, learn your rotation, learn your gems, stat weights, blah, blah, blah. Okay, do research. Step 2 is keybind. Don't click. Okay. Step 3 is add-ons. Okay? I'm not kidding. Step 3 is your add-ons. If you don't have any add-ons, it's curse.com. You can download the Curse client. You can download add-ons all you want. There's videos on there that show you how to do it, out on YouTube, that show you how to download add-ons, how to install add-ons, how to manipulate every single add-on that you may get. There are videos on how to do all of those. Okay? That's the next thing you need to do. If you're going to be a raider, you need bigwigs or you need deadly boss mods. You do not need both, but you do need one or the other. If you're a beginning raider, I recommend deadly boss mods. They have countdown timers that are a little bit more vocal. Most of their information is a little bit more flashy and bright, so it kind of draws your eyes to it. As opposed to bigwigs, which is a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more for advanced players who are kind of know what's going on in a fight, and they just want to track certain things or know certain things. They're not really worried about, okay, well in 5 seconds I got to move because it's counting down to my ear. No. Bigwigs is more of the one that says, okay, well it's counting down to 5, and the player goes, oh, well I know what's going to happen then, so I need to move. Whereas, you know, deadly boss mods will be a little bit more vocal, a little bit more in your face of a boss mod add-on, but you do need it. I cannot tell you how much you need it. It is essential, okay, especially if you're first raiding. It will give you timers on boss things, it will give you berserk timers, it will give you cooldowns on what's coming up, what things to do. It's just a very, very good add-on. I recommend it. The next thing you need to do is set up your screen. Okay, get add-ons. This add-on that has my little chat windows here and here, my map up here with my buffs, my player unit frames, okay, and all this, and my bars down here. This is called LVUI. You cannot download this on Curse. You have to go to tuckui.org to get this. It does have a nice, easy installation walkthrough if you don't know what you're doing, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to set up. There is a lot of very good tutorials on this add-on and how to set it up properly, but I recommend doing that. This add-on here that shows my damage, and then I have the same window here that shows my healing. These are just add-ons that I use for raid because I like to see damage meters and healing meters. That's just something I like to do. And this add-on here that shows all my bars in the middle, this is called Tell Me When. Okay, and this does take a minute to set up. There are videos out there on how to do it, but it is important that you learn how to set it up, okay? If you want to use things like this. Anything that will make your life a little bit easier, because the problem is normal default will just have these buffs. Well, if you don't know what any of them are, you don't know which ones are your trinkets, which ones are anything, it's nice to have this add-on to kind of keep track of certain things. It does take a little bit to set up, I will warn you, but having your UI set up comfortably is a very, very important step. Okay, making sure that when you install add-ons that you're setting them up the way that feels right for you. There's no set way to set up a UI. The rule of thumb, though, however, when you are setting up your UI for you beginning raiders, is keep your screen clear. Keep the middle of your screen clear. The only things that I have next to me are my cast bar right here, and I have my mana. Now, I'm an arcane mage, so this is why these are very important things. I'm not going to go into why, because that's not important. But I do have these things right next to me. The reason I have these things right next to me is because I want to be able to keep my eyes on my player, okay? I don't care what's going on down here on my buttons. I don't care what the boss's health is. I don't care what anything else is right now. If there's stuff not to stand in, if there's positioning, I always want my eyes on my screen. I want them searching the screen. Where's the tank? Am I in good position with the tank? Is there an ability out on the ground that I need to make sure I'm out of? Where is the ad coming from? Things like this that you will not pick up if you're down here clicking and you're staring down at your bars. That's called tunneling. It's just not a good idea. You need to always be aware of your surroundings, and the easiest way to do that is, and you'll get better with it the longer you do it. Like, I remember when I was on my DK, there would be times where I was like, man, I wish I had an add-on that would show me my runes on my screen so I didn't have to look down here at my player bar to know what runes I had available and which ones I didn't. Well, there is an add-on out there to find that out. And the more comfortable you guys get with your add-ons and your UI, the more little tweaks and little adjustments you will find that make it easier to do. Okay, that's really how it works. Is the more comfortable you get, the more times you'll realize, man, I wish there was an add-on for this, and then go search, because there probably is. You're probably not the first person to think of that. It's probably already out there. Someone probably already made it for you. So, and if they didn't, and you're good at writing, go make it. But that's the thing, that is number 3, is making sure that you have your UI set up so that you're comfortable, so that it's clean, so that you can always be aware of your surroundings, okay? So again, going down the list, number 1, know your class, know your rotation, know what your spells do. Number 2, keybind. Number 3, UI. Number 4 is boss strategy, okay? Whether you go on Fat Boss, Tank Spot, you go to me, it doesn't matter where you go. Go check out these sites. Even Icy Veins has written ones if you want to see that. Go to your dungeon journal by pressing Shift J. You can go through and it will show you, like Shaw of Anger, what's his abilities. These are all his abilities. You can go through and read these. I'm more of a visual person, so for me, I go on YouTube and I find videos so I can watch, see what other people are doing, okay? But they will break down strategies for you. They will break down abilities that you need to watch out for. They will break down little things like that. Now, it's never the same as you going in and doing it yourself and learning, okay? It's never the same. It does take time to pick up on what's going on. But if you know the background of abilities, you know what you need to watch out for, what will kill you, what won't kill you, where you should be standing, where you shouldn't be standing, all these things will help. Understand when huge damage is coming out so you can pop a damage reduction cooldown to help your healers. I promise you that if you're on the bottom of damage done meters, or damage taken meters, and you're on, mid to top of damage meters, there's not many raids that aren't going to want to take you, because you know how to stay out of stuff, you know when to pop your cooldowns, and you know how to do your damage. Those are the biggest things, okay? Is being an aware raider, knowing abilities that are going out, and knowing this kind of thing. And this is the building block for raiding, okay? The 5th thing that I would tell you, step 5, is to set up a World of Logs for yourself. Preach has an excellent video on this. There are plenty of videos if you type in World of Logs setup on how to get that set up. And just keep track of it for yourself. You don't need a guild to do this. You can set up your own logs. It'll show you how to log them and everything. There's tutorials out there. It's not that hard. But keep track of what you're doing. And then each week, do the same thing and try to compare it and see if, well, did my gear change? Did I get more comfortable with this fight? Yada, yada, yada. For like LFRs, use it for that. For raiding, use it for that. Obviously, it doesn't work for dungeons. But the more dungeons you run, the more times you see a boss, think about things like this. Am I improving? What did I learn from last time that I was here? Well, I learned not to stand in this. Okay. Well, I learned that from last week, that if I had a speed increase for this boss, it would have really helped me. Well, let's look through my talents and look through my glyphs. Do we have anything? Yes, we do. Well, let's take this and let's see, what am I losing? Is that sacrifice worth it for this fight? If so, try it out. And that's the greatest thing, guys, is with LFR, we can try everything out before normal ratings. Understand what the normal mechanics are and try to use that to the best of your ability. Don't worry about what your damage says in LFR, because you'll kill the boss if you have crap damage. I've seen it done every time. What you need to worry about is, if you're in there for practice, do the fight like it's a normal mode fight. If you know an ability's coming, or if you know you have to reset your stacks, or if you know you have to do this, this, or this, you can practice all of these things in LFR. I promise you can. It might take some time, but you can do it. And I recommend doing that. Once you've watched the fights, once you've read the abilities, once you've gone through these steps, then go in and practice, practice, practice. You can go into LFR more than just one time. It's not going to hurt you. You might not get gear. That's fine. You can still go in there and do the boss fights and see the fights. You can do that. And I believe that while it's not very accurate compared to like normal and heroic modes, the general idea of the encounters are all relatively the same. There might be some abilities that change, there might be some differences, but for the most part it will allow you to see the room that you're in, allow you to get comfortable in the environment that you're going to be fighting in, and allow you to kind of understand what different abilities are and aren't. And this is important. It's very important that you can get in there and say, okay, well, now I can practice on this guy. Well, I can practice my rotation on this guy. Oh, well, I really messed that up. And it's okay, because you're not going to have anyone yell at you, because it's LFR. They're going to be yelling anyway. So just, kind of focus on what you're doing and get these things down. Okay? The next thing that you want to do is, if join a guild. That's the first thing you need to do. Go on the forums, maybe see if there's any new guilds forming that need teams. Go in trade chat, see if you've got a really populated server, to see if maybe there's alt runs starting up, and find a group that's willing to work with you. Be honest with them up front. Tell them, I haven't had a lot of raiding experience, but I've studied the fights. I think I can be good. Is that okay? Because if you tell them ahead of time that you don't have a ton of experience in raiding, allow them. Don't be mad if you get rejected a couple times. It's going to happen, okay? But if you make sure that you know the fights ahead of time, you know the different abilities, so that way if you go into a raid with a group of guys who are on like their alts, or who just raid like once a week, or they just aren't very far in progression, you can go, oh, well, when I was watching the video, I saw this, or, oh, this is that ability that I was worried about, or what killed you, and you know the name of the ability that killed you, and you know how to fix it for the next time. This is what makes you better at raiding, and makes you get invited back to raids and to different raiding guilds, and get a core spot as a DPS or as a healer or whatever it is you want to raid as. But what you need to understand is, okay, when I started raiding, when I actually started playing this game, it was Wrath. It was beginning to middle of Wrath. I started playing like the day Alduar came out. I didn't get to 80 until about halfway through Alduar, and then once I got to 80, my friend who got me playing was in a guild. He got me raiding with them, and I had never stepped foot in a raid before. Now, I had done tons of research, right? Because I was like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. And if you're watching this video, you're probably in the same boat. You're just looking for a couple ideas, looking for some help. The first thing that you need to understand is just relax. Just relax. If you've done the research, you've practiced, you know what you're doing, you're going to be okay. I promise you. You're going to be okay. The biggest thing that I saw was, like, my very first raid. I still remember it. I was scared to death. They were, like, Flame Leviathan was already cleared, so we were going right into the Dragon, Razor or Ignatius, one of those two fights. I forgot which one it was. But we were, that's where we were going, and I was like, oh, crap. Like, okay, I know what this guy does, but I've never done this before. And I told him before. And I was like, I've never done this fight, like, live. Like, I've seen it done. I've watched all the videos. I've done all the research. No problem. So be a little bit lenient with me if I mess up on something the first time. I apologize. I'm a quick learner. And then I went through and I died. I got picked to go in the pot. I didn't get healed. I didn't move out of the way for the ads. Like, I had no idea what I was doing on Ignatius. Razor Gore, or whatever the dragon's name was, Razorfin, I don't know. I got killed because I was DPSing the ads while I was DPSing too much AoE with Howling Blast, and I pulled aggro, and I didn't know to pop cooldowns, and I died. Just little stupid mistakes that I didn't know any better, and as I got into it, I was getting better and better and better. And by the time we got into ICC, I had a core raid spot, and I was the Death Knight class leader by the time we got into ICC. And the reason was because there was only 3 Death Knights, but I was beating the other 2, and I was the one doing the research, and I was the one who was paying attention, and I was the one who would go into fights having seen certain things from PTRs or from other guilds doing it, or from raid guides, and I'd be like, oh, well, I could probably do this for here to get more damage out, or I could do this here, and blah, blah, blah. And it worked. And I'm telling you guys, just relax and understand that if you're doing the research and you really want to raid and you're really committing to it, that you will be good at it. It just takes the dedication, commitment. However much you put into it is how much you're going to get out. I can't make it any easier than that. It's just the way it is. But those are the main tips, guys, is get through that stuff. Get your keybinds working, get your class figured out, get your UI figured out, learn the boss strategies, and then be open and honest with guilds. People who are open and honest, I'm telling you, I have seen more people who go, oh, I'm level blah, 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 I level this, like I've done this fight on, do this, and I've got all this experience, and they come in and they suck, and they're in the wrong presence, or they're tanking in unholy presence, or they're using the wrong seal, or they're not in the right gear, and it just pisses the raid leader off, and then they get kicked. Whereas if you tell them up front, hey, I've done all the research that I can do. If you see anything that you think I'm doing wrong, let me know. But, I've done the research. I think I know my class pretty well. I'm kind of new to this content. But, I'd like to go with you guys. I think I'll be a good asset, blah, blah, blah. You're upfront, you're open, you're honest. They will work with you. They will be more lenient with you. I promise you. This is how I got into it. That's just as easy as it is. You just have to be honest. And yes, I got turned down by probably 10, 12 groups because they were like, well, we kind of want somebody with more experience. Don't be offended by that. Don't get angry at them. There are people out there with more experience who are looking to pug a raid. But the thing is you'll eventually find somebody who lets you in. But I'm telling you, if you lie, the second you start lying about your eye level, about your experience, about anything else, understand that when you say, eye level 476 Frost Mage looking for MSV, 10-man. No fights, have 6 of 6, cleared, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, and then you get an invite. Well, what happens if you've never even been in there? You might have watched the video, and then you go into the dogs, and you don't know how chains work because you've never physically seen them work. Like, you have the idea of how they work, but then it comes out, well, then the dog's in the wrong petrification, and you start trying to break chains, you kill everybody, and then you get kicked because you're an idiot, because you lied, because you've never done this. Don't lie. That's the biggest thing, is just be open and upfront and honest. You'll be fine, I promise. And then let me know how it goes. And that's the other thing, too, is, guys, I want this to be a video where the comments are more of a thread, are more of a, what was your first raiding experience like? I would love to know that. I love to read through those things. What would be some of your tips that you would bring into a first-time raider? And let's make this kind of a general place to go for guys who are raiding for the first time, or maybe have been out of it for a while, or just kind of want a refresh course on, raiding 101. Okay? And let's go ahead and help them. Let's leave them stories. Let's leave them, whether they're horror stories or, good stories or fun stories. Leave them in the comments below. And guys, if you're watching this, let me know if you go into these raids, and if you have any other questions, or if you have anything that you need help with or you want to know, leave it in the comments, or send me a private message, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I'm telling you guys, if you've never raided and you're looking to get into it, it's such a good time. You will really, the first time that you get a kill from a raid boss, like a normal mode raid boss or a heroic mode raid boss, and it's a progression with a group, and you and 9 or 24 other people have put their heads together and they figured out the puzzle to this boss and they killed him, there's not a better feeling. It was my favorite feeling to ever see. Like, if you watch the Method vs. Shaw of Anger heroic video at the end when they're at like 0.5%, you hear all the screams and the oohs and the ahs. If that's what you're looking to be a part of, you got to start somewhere. Those guys, none of those guys were any different than you at the point when they started. They were all doing the same thing. They all had to do research. They all had to start somewhere. They all had to get experience somewhere. If you're a dedicated raider, there's always a spot for you. I promise. You just need to be patient, be honest, and research, and do your job, and know your job. Those are the biggest things, guys. And if you can do that, you're going to have a good time. I hope this helped. Again, please like and subscribe. And as always, leave your comments below, because I'd like to hear, again, your war stories or your horror stories from the first time you raided, how long you've been raiding, where you came from to where you are now. If there's any other tips and tricks for first-time raiders that you think are really, really key, leave those in the comments. Let's make this a very useful thread for people who've never been into a raid. See you in the next one, guys.